Welcome to 5 Star Weekly. Which unprotected player was a surprise? And which free agent could we pick up? Getting all that and more coming up. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Welcome to the show, 5 Star Fam. I'm AJ, and this is Michael. And yes, the expansion draft is upon us. Unfortunately, we are recording it right before it's about to happen, but, we can't wait around on it. It's, Pacific time, and yeah, we need sleep. So, unfortunately, it is going to be done before then, and if something happens, we'll let you know. But, before we get into all the news and the mailbag, let's give some major shouts out to our loyal Patreon fam. Specifically Gavin, Jordan, Niall, Andrew, Chris, and Nick. Love you guys. Thank you so much. But yes, let's get into the news. And the first bit is that David Tenney, he has been hired as the director of high performance. Also, there is a dog above me in the apartment that I live in. So if you hear some dogs barking, rip your ears. Apologies for that, but, I would go up there and knock on the door if they were home. Clearly, they are not home. So, but Tenney, he brings more than 20 years of experience and joins from Austin FC, where he spent the last 4 years. And he also spent 3 years with NBA's Orlando Magic, and also combined 11 years in MLS with Seattle Sounders from 2009 to 2017. And SKC from 2007 to 2008. So obviously, Garth Lagerwey worked with him at the Sounders. He did mention, we're excited to welcome David to the club as the director of high performance. Considered a leader in our industry, David brings 20 years of experience in elite sports performance, during which he worked for multiple MLS teams and across multiple different sports. He will oversee the club's performance department that includes the first team, Atlanta United 2, and the club's academy. And, obviously, what this means is a bit vague. Director of high performance, doesn't really exactly scream a very obvious role that I think most people in layman's term can understand. But, I guess it's this, the fact that he has served as both a fitness and goalkeeper coach with SKC, and also, he has kind of held a dual role of goalkeeper coach and head fitness coach with the George Mason University men's and women's soccer team. I think it's about probably from a health standpoint, from a medical standpoint, and from making sure that the players, maybe nutrition wise, maybe also recovery wise, it's at the highest level. And so obviously he was there when the Sounders have won some trophies. So I think it's definitely not a bad thing, I think, to maybe upgrade this role, maybe even add this role, which I don't think we really had. But yeah, Michael, what are your thoughts on the addition of this maybe kind of mysterious role that isn't that obvious to everyone?
It's a bit of like corporate jargon, the title, right? So it's a little vague and mysterious, like you said. But I mean, the way he's coming in, like what he's purporting to do with like fitness, nutrition, things of this sort, I don't think that this is a bad thing whatsoever. A lot of fans for a while now have raised the concern of our players getting injured because of poor fitness, poor training, or all these other types of things. And so this is a way to assuage any of these concerns that might continue. Under a new leadership, a new direction, you could see perhaps if there was any, credence to that theory, that being abated. Hopefully that would be the case. We don't have another season like we did, where we had like a historic amount of injuries. And again, we don't really quite know what the confluence of factors that was to create that horrible season of injuries. But hopefully, with a new director, in this world, in this area of the club, it can help abate that, if that was indeed something that was occurring because of either mismanagement or not understanding or what have you. It's hard to imagine, considering Atlanta United is supposed to have the best sports science type folks. So, I mean, I'm not saying that was a thing that was occurring, but some fans have had concerns about that, and they voiced their concerns about it. And at the very least, coming up with a new direction for this, high performance department or whatever, that can only really be a good thing in my estimation.
Yeah. I think very well said. Use some $5 words there, or maybe with inflation, call it like $20 words now, $50 words. I don't even know, but some very good vocabulary there. But yeah. So in terms of all of that, I mean, yeah, I agree. There are some things that I think the fans have voiced their displeasure, in which a lot of players going down, where it seems like it wasn't even soft injury or soft tissue injury. It was just some very strange injuries that were happening in training, and it's like, okay, we get that players can get contact injuries, can get a knock in training, but it seemed like more than usual, possibly, and especially in the past few years. So, if this kind of serves as a little bit of that to kind of put in check a lot of that, I'm game. Let's make it happen. So, anyway, next bit of news: Santiago Sosa, the midfielder, has and former U22 player for us, has been officially transferred to Racing Club. It is official, and yes, he did have kind of, I would say, maybe roughly one good year with us. Maybe it wasn't a full year, but yeah, and then unfortunately it kind of fell off a cliff a little bit due to not only I think what we noticed, which was some injury, but also kind of lack of good performances. It really kind of had the writing on the wall for him, especially with new coaches, and I think especially after that Inter Miami game, in which he kind of just let Lionel Messi stroll in, get shots off. I mean, it's understandable to a degree, because it's an Argentine player who idolized the GOAT, but yeah, it probably was one of the last straws, and Pineda just really didn't trust him after that, it seemed like. But he has been balling out for Racing Club. There's a purported $4 million fee, maybe with add-ons that could bump up to $5.5 million reported, and that's according to Tom Bogert. I mean, probably a good piece of business. What do you think?
Yeah, completely agree. I would not expect that much when he left us, but considering the fact that I guess he's found some, comfort and a good fit over in Racing Club, then yeah, I mean, he's been balling out like you said, so his value has gone up, and we're reaping a lot of that, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and obviously, one of his cohorts, maybe that's a strong word maybe, but Franco Ibarra, he was let go, kind of in the sense that his option wasn't picked up, and it was just maybe there wasn't as much value. I mean, if we were to pick up his option, we'd be kind of saddled with him, and then it probably was just a kind of cut bait type of thing. But obviously Ibarra and Sosa came in together as U22s when that initiative first started. We don't get anything from Ibarra, but I think we offset that with a pretty good sell with or sale with Santiago Sosa. But what maybe isn't considered a fantastic sale is Tyler Wolff. He's been traded to Real Salt Lake for $50,000 in GAM. Wolff, the homegrown. He's 21 years old. He made 61 appearances with LA United. He had 5 goals, 1 assist in 642 minutes in 2023. So, not a player that played a ton for us, but he did score some meaningful goals in some good moments. But ultimately, maybe a player that didn't really develop fully. I think fairly limited in some degrees, where maybe it wasn't the type of player that I think we were wanting him to be, which, it's I think we've known this is that he's a cool customer in front of goal, usually, kind of more of a second striker type, not really a winger. I think from a creation standpoint, not really that type of player, but get him a look in front of goal, and he can put the ball away pretty well. It's just a matter of as well, I think from a defensive standpoint, he offered a good bit of stability, from pressing, from tracking back, but I think it's the technical ability a little bit that still needs some development, or just maybe just wasn't quite there. But what are your thoughts on Wolff and 50K in GAM?
I mean, if he wants to continue to develop to maybe break into a starting position or something like that, I think probably best that he moves to another club, because I think he's been, for the most part, relegated to being a backup, a depth piece for us. And, if he doesn't want to do that, which, I don't blame him for not wanting to do. I wouldn't blame him for trying to get a starting position somewhere, fight for that. So he's not like pigeonholed into just this one role. Power to him. And if, I guess, we just kind of agree and get 50K out of it, I mean, that's, I guess, something. So, I mean, we're pretty much flush with money right now, so it's not super important, the money. But, it is what it is. I think, this is probably with eyes for him, bettering his career. And if that's the case, then, go for it. Because I just don't think he's going to make it out of the depth kind of hole he's in at Atlanta United.
Right. And it's this. It's like, as far as Wolff, he's been a great servant for us, and, represented us well, never really did anything, from a optics standpoint that was bad. So, we definitely wish him the best. A homegrown for us, always a 5-stripe. But, from, an actual talent standpoint, it's just like, I think his ceiling was just not where I think maybe some other players have, maybe eyes for, a starting job. For him, if he was to go to pastures new for some more minutes, it probably is wise for his career. Him being at 21, it's the time to play. It's the time to get a lot of meaningful minutes. Otherwise, you're not really going to develop a whole lot, unfortunately, if you're not playing week in,
and
week
you
out.
should move around. And if you're not if you're kind of hitting a wall and you're not really progressing, then it would make a lot of sense to just get a change of scenery. So, maybe that'll help him develop just in a different environment. So we'll see.
Exactly. So anyway, let's move on to another winger, Edwin Moscara. There's a transfer rumor that he's reportedly on the radar of 3 Colombian teams. Junior, who already were interested last June, apparently, Atlético Nacional, and Millonarios, according to Mariano Osen. So, I mean, there was also a tweet by Edwin Moscara that kind of a little kind of I don't know how to describe it, but basically it pretty much was saying goodbye already. And yeah, it's like, okay, you know, if he's already on the move, this probably is a sign. It's not official yet, obviously, but you know, there is the fact, yeah, well, later on we'll talk about this, but the fact that he is on the radar of, you know, some Colombian teams and he might go there. Well, yeah, you know, it maybe makes sense for us to kind of, I wouldn't exactly say sell high, but you know, I think probably his value is at its highest with us for sure. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, that was supposed to be a throw to you, but
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it.
no worry. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Moscara, you know, do you feel like he's someone that's, if he went to, you know, another team, would that kind of really break you up a whole lot? Or, I mean, is this something that, okay, maybe it does?
No. I know some people are a little conflicted about it. Some people are saying he didn't get the minutes, the chances when he was here to really kind of blossom. I mean, I've always kind of pegged him as a pace merchant, and that's basically his strongest suit. Best used and employed as a super sub, and you're not going to get much more mileage out of him outside of that. So, you know, if he wants to improve or do something more than that and develop in some way, I think, again, similar to what we said with Josh Wolf, maybe a change of scenery can do that from a different type of team. That's another thing that's on my mind when I heard Josh Wolf is looking for a team right now too, and people are saying like, why not us? I was like, no, please. I don't think I'd like that very much. But anyway, yeah, for Edwin, it's like, if he wants to do that, I'm not too broken up about it. I mean, you can find pace merchants like a dime a dozen. I don't think we'd have a hard time replacing that profile of player. And I'm not sure we should have a U22 player be a guy who can run real fast. Should probably be someone with some technical ability, in my estimation. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're necessarily going to be a team that is going to just, you know, run the pants off of the other team, like out sprint them all the time. Considering Moranchuk does not look very fast, and so, you know, we might be, you know, more technical team next season. So I'd rather kind of see that role versus just a guy who can run real quick. So yeah, I'm not broken up about it, but Edwin was an exciting player, and I will miss that aspect of him. He just brings a chaotic kind of feel to the game when he comes in. And he just kind of stirs things up, and weird, bizarre stuff happens, and it's exciting. So, you know, that's something he brought that I will miss. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think we could probably get a player that will fill what we need in this team a little bit better than what he does.
Yeah. And not to harp on this too long, but yeah, it is, you know, the type of player that he is, and kind of what you described a little bit, kind of reminds me of, okay, a poor man's Tito Fischalba, in the sense that, yeah, you know, every time Fischalba came on the pitch, it was chaos. It was just utter chaos. You didn't know what was going to happen, but that was the beauty of it. But I think you saw that, yeah, Tito had a lot more kind of quality, and, you know, it is one of those things where that rocket shot, you know, that he had, the pace to be able to get in behind, to also, you know, be able to assist as well, but also get double-digit goals. I mean, yeah, it was, you know, you could rely on him in front of goal a little bit more. Even though Moscara scored a really great goal, that curler shot to the top bins, you know, we just didn't maybe see it enough. Where, yeah, you know, we can say that we can trust him on a week in, week out basis. But
I mean, yeah, the exact opposite is true. We've seen so many times of him flubbing very easy chances, and it's just. I'm kind of done with that. So
yeah. But this is the thing, to be fair, with Your point about Moranchuk, and maybe, yeah, we do need dynamism too, though. So not having just one way to play, having somebody that's able to bring chaos off the bench and pace is something that's obviously very useful at the end of matches against tired defenses. But yeah, Moscara, he has a contract until next or 2 seasons, basically December 31st in 2026. And yeah, he could go on a loan with the option to buy. There are no official offers yet, but yeah, there is the possibility. But next transfer rumor, according to Manuel Veth, Atlanta United are interested in signing free agent central midfielder Drew Yearwood, and talks are still in the early stages. Parties are still apart when it comes to salary, but Atlanta United would like to make it work, apparently, according to Veth. And some other clubs are maybe interested. Yearwood's contract with Nashville SC is set to expire next year on January 1st, 2025. And he's 24 years old, from England. He's got his green card. He came up through the Arsenal and Southend United academies. And yeah, a player that probably in my estimations is more of a depth piece. Maybe kind of more in the line of, kind of, I would say 3rd, 4th, 5th midfielder. But, there is a possibility that if he, can take a jump, that he might be able to, kind of usurp somebody. But, we do need depth. We have had people retire in the midfield position, obviously with Dax McCarty, and we moved on from other midfielders as well this offseason. So, some depth is probably needed from a guy that could have a high ceiling, doesn't take it up in an international spot. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Drew Yearwood?
Yeah, I completely agree with him being, if he would come here, it'd be for depth. And it kind of shocks me a bit. 24-year-old being okay with coming into a team and being straight to depth, basically. I probably wouldn't want that if I were him, but I don't know him well enough to say, one way or the other. But if that's what he wants to do and we're okay with that and the price is right, yeah, we definitely need depth. And he seems to, we did look at his FBref stats, which they don't look very good, to be perfectly honest. And that is worrying. So that's, hopefully he could improve if he comes here. If not, then he's very firmly going to remain depth, and that's just kind of the way it'll be if he comes here. But hopefully, it's not like that. Or, if it is, it's actually beneficial to us. So
yeah. And it's that. I mean, if he can, again, if he can win a spot, that would be great. I mean, but yeah, a central midfielder also can play as a defensive midfielder. Probably just a depth piece, but we'll see. Next bit of news: Gonzalo Pineda. He has apparently caught on with Mexican club Atlas FC. He will join them in the Clausura 2025. And that's according to Cesar Luis Merlo. But yeah, Pineda, he got a job before we even hired somebody. He got a job before Grand Theft Auto, the newest one, came out. I mean, yeah, it's he got a job before we got a technical director. It's kind of wild, but congrats to Pineda. A good guy as a coach, and happy that he did catch on with somebody else, and he's given a chance. Who knows how he will do from a tactical standpoint? He kind of is. It's just completely up in the air for him. I don't know. I don't know if he will be able to really stamp his imprint. Hopefully he will be backed. But I don't know. We'll see. But what are your thoughts on Pineda getting a job already?
Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm wearing the Mexico jersey tonight for this episode. Because as you know, we're in the off season now. So I wear non-Atlanta United jerseys for the podcast until we get back to the season start. So with Pineda, I'm glad, like you said, that he found somewhere to land. I think he deserves a job somewhere. I think he was still learning when he was here, and hopefully he learned the lessons. Because at Atlas, they're not going to have a lot of leeway for him. He's going to have to really hit the ground running. Mexican clubs are notorious for being very critical of their managers. So hopefully, he can kind of get going early and fast. And so, he gets fast success there, hopefully for him. It's like you said, the jury's out about whether or not he will become and develop to be a competent coach. He's a competent strategist. Like, he knows soccer. He can talk about it very eloquently. We've heard him do it many, many times. Very smart man. But for whatever reason, it just wouldn't communicate or translate here. Maybe in his native, Mexico, like it'll be easier. Who knows? So I wish him all the luck, except for if we run up against Atlas in Leagues Cup. And we'll keep our powder dry for now when talking about a potential matchup between Atlanta United and Gonzalo Pineda's Atlas. That would make headlines. That would be bizarre and that would throw this entire fan base into a fevered pitch if Gonzalo Pineda was able to come to the Benz and defeat the new version of Atlanta United, and out-coach it even. That would send everyone into a death spiral. That would be insane. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So I don't wish him luck for that, but I wish him luck for everything else.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a precedence with that with Stephen Glass with Memphis 901. But, unfortunately, they no longer exist. But, Pineda and Atlas.
Yeah, we made some calls. We made some calls. I said, we're not ever losing to them again. Someone do something about Memphis. And then the next day, they folded.
But it's also, speaking of Leagues Cup, there is the aspect that some teams will not participate next year, apparently, according to some reports. So it'll be interesting if Atlanta United is part of that, or also with the U.S. Open Cup, and which teams will participate in that as well. But so much for kind of a one system type of franchise league. It's really starting to look like there are some what's the word, but there's some teams rebelling against the system, raging against the machine, if you will, and it is gonna be interesting what's gonna happen in Leagues Cup, but that's a discussion for another day. But the thing we will discuss now is the expansion draft protectees and the unprotected. But the following players have been protected for the expansion draft. So Pedro Amador, Josh Cohen, Stian Gregerson, Bragu Zan, Brooks Lennon, Saba Laptunice, Alexei Miranchuk, Edwin Moscara, Tristan Muyamba, Bartosz Slisz, Jamal Tiare, and Derek Williams. Automatically protected are the homegrowns, and some of the other players like that. Luke Brennan, Noah Cobb, Matthew Edwards, Jay Fortune, Efrain Morales, Aiden Torres, and the players that are available for selection, aka unprotected: Luis Abram, Eric Centeno, Nick Firmino, Ronald Hernandez, Franco Ibarra, Shane Silva, Daniel Rios. So, obviously a lot of names that could actually be surprises. But, which names stand out for you for the ones that were actually protected? We'll go with that first.
The ones that were protected, I don't think there were... to be honest, you cut out while you were talking about them, so I'm trying to go from memory now. But for the most part, I didn't think any ones that were protected were too surprising. No, I think it was the unprotected were the only ones that had some interest to them. Maybe Yeah, no, I think there wasn't any that were too surprising to me that were protected.
Yeah. I think for me, it was Tristan Muyamba. I think we could have taken the risk with leaving him unprotected. I think his performance, I think the what we were getting from him, I think was something that we can get from other players. It wasn't necessarily something that if they wanted to take the chance, San Diego, then okay, take the chance, pay his salary. I think we're able to replicate that maybe in other ways, or maybe find another player that could do that. But as well, Edwin Moscara, possibly, but I think it's more he was saved in the sense that we might be able to kind of move him on, and we obviously want to be able to make some money off of that, especially from a U22 player that was previously, it's kind of semi higher salary there. But yeah, I think for the unprotected players, I think that's where some pretty interesting bits are. Which maybe one or two players were surprises for you there?
Yeah, I don't really like that Ronald Hernandez was on the list. I think that we could have probably used him a little bit, keep him around. I don't think it would have been that bad if we kept him like on the protected list, but I think he can be a very good utility knife for a lot of teams in MLS, as he has been for us because of his versatility. I think that could be something that other teams would be interested in. So that's why I'd be concerned with him being on the list. He seems selectable in that way. Whereas some of the other players, I think like Tristan and Edwin, I think these are tradable players. Teams would have interest in them, I think, for money. So I think like keeping them, there's some reasoning behind that. Like Zonde is in the same ilk, but with his injuries and with his latest performance, it's just, and then the salary, I think that there's a little bit more to that than with Tristan or Edwin, and that he kind of concerns me with his inconsistency. So like you said, if they want to take a gamble on taking him, then go for it. So we'll see if they if they take the plunge. And then the last one of interest is Luis Abram, and he's a good defender, but we are paying a lot of money for him. So if they want to take on the salary, okay. But yeah, I mean, if they want a good defender, they can get one. I remember I mentioned that I'd rather us be picking up players like that are not always playing on their national teams, because it seems to be every time there's a international break, we lose like half our roster, and so we are punished for being good. And so I feel like we could maybe find some players that won't go every time, because that hurts us in MLS. So hopefully we can find a replacement if Luis were to go. But if not, I mean, it's not terrible. We could also still get value from him in other ways. So, those are the players that I think had the most intrigue about them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, those are probably the most selectable players for sure. San Diego FC looks like they're trying to win in the first year. So, they're probably going to try to pick from the best. And, boy, they have as many teams as they want to choose from. It's kind of unfair to a degree in that sense. Like they have the pick of the lot, and 12 players isn't a lot to actually protect. But I think what's interesting maybe with Abram, I think, is that he is a good enough player, but his salary is just too high to probably take the risk on. I don't think he maybe on the ball from also a physicality standpoint, from a center back, from maybe a two center back pairing, that you feel the most safe with him. So I think that's probably why we risked him. Ronald Hernandez, yeah. I totally understand from your standpoint, but I think we have Matt Edwards, who I think can kind of fill his role a little bit, and we do have a lot of center backs as well, with Noah Cobb and Efrain Morales that can kind of play that, maybe 3 center back role, whether it's, maybe on the right side or the left side. So, I think risking Ronaldo Hernandez probably was a smart move in my opinion too. Shane Silva, he felt away maybe. His IG story showed something that, he had the music of J. Cole. The song was, what was it? I think I wrote this down, but let me try to find it. But yeah, no, it was basically, him. It was J. Cole, Too Deep for the intro. But it was also where he held, he just cropped out, I think very strategically, a couple of middle fingers directed at the camera. And it's suspicious. He's is entitled to feel a certain way about being unprotected if that is the reaction to it. It was right on the same day when that was announced. So, maybe we're all reading into this.
Seems a little unprofessional in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe we're reading into this.
If that's what that is, that seems unprofessional.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be him post a picture just reminding people he's hard, man. Like, he's a tough guy. Maybe that's what it was.
Right. And so, you never know. It's, I think, shrouded enough, but I think some people read it in between the lines. That's why I mention it, is that, there is something about it where, Silva, I think, the year that he had, I mean, let's just be very, very frank, it wasn't great. It was, pretty anemic from the left side. He did score a really, really great goal for us against Inter Miami. He had his usefulness, but from a consistent week in, week out standpoint, just left some to be desired. And unfortunately, that kind of, I think justifies his, inclusion in the players that are available for selection. But,
and it's unfortunate if a lot of that comes because of his injury, the long-standing foot injury that he's had that really kind of hobbled his at least into almost all season.
Right. And so, that definitely does take into account, because, when he came in, it definitely, you see the quality. He has, some pace. It's the technical ability that he's able to exude and beat his man. The impossible ankle shots, the, very well taken shots from distance as well. It's just, he provided, I think, from a defensive standpoint too, I think some safety from a left wing position too, but ultimately, you do have to perform. That position, left wing, is one of the goal scoring positions, and for us to pretty much not really get that from that position all season, on a really consistent basis, really hurt us. So, I think what's also interesting, San Diego FC, they traded for goalkeeper from Inter Miami, CJ Dos Santos, for $100,000 in GAM in 2025. Seems like a little handshake deal. Also, San Diego FC rumored to pick up Jose Kijima from St. Louis and in the expansion draft, and immediately trade him to DC United for $400,000 in GAM. That's a rumor. And also, as well, they have picked up Reyes from New York Red Bull, a center back, and they are going to get, let's see, what was it? $750,000, in CAM. And obviously Andres Reyes, he was just in the MLS Cup final. Well, sort of. He apparently got an illness right before the game started and wasn't able to play. And he was promptly moved on to San Diego really quickly this offseason. But also there is defender Christopher McVeigh from DC United. That's there's an exchange for $50,000 in GAM and up to $50,000 in conditional 26 GAM for certain performances. So they're already wheeling and dealing. And, so some other teams are already going to be kind of off the books. I count basically 3 teams there. So, obviously we've got, pretty much a lot of teams. I believe San Diego will be the 32nd team in the league. So, still 20-something teams that San Diego can choose from. So they might not even necessarily choose us, especially when, we're not necessarily a team that's, had a lot of high performers. Let's be real. So there is that. Oh, there's also Ghanaian winger Yaya Boa that is rumored to be selected from Columbus. So, that's 4 teams. Still leaves about 27 teams that they can choose from. Hopefully, they don't choose anybody from us. But if they did, would you be really that broken up about it?
If they choose to Brom, I would be okay. Again, I feel like we could do a little better in that position with him, considering, the fact that a player like Williams won the position from him for the entire season, that just shouldn't be the case if you're making as much as he makes. So, at that point, I was like, yep, okay. If he goes, that's perfectly fine. And you know what? He might work better in San Diego, and then he could be a good piece for their team and then thrive there. And then we can move on and get a player that works better for us, and everyone wins. Hopefully that might be the case.
Yeah. But, if he stays, he's a veteran left footer that can play kind of multiple positions to a degree in a center back pair, in a 3-man back line, and also at left back at times, to varying degrees, obviously. But, let's move on to the MLS free agent window. It will open up Thursday, December 12th. And, some very intriguing players for sure. Joseph Martinez, Yamil Assad, players from yesteryear, of course. But also from a, maybe we can look into it standpoint. Jeremy Abobasi, a player who's in his prime, 27. He's scored multiple double-digit goals seasons. He's got 3 of those so far in his career. So, maybe not a bad player to maybe take a look at, see if he can, maybe want to. I would imagine he wants to be a starter, but if we can convince him to be, a player that's maybe fighting for places, also would be very intriguing. You also have attacking midfielder Albert Rusnak, who probably might be, going back to Seattle, but, the Seattle connection with Garth Lagerwey, that would be interesting, maybe as just another player that, he's a DP coming off his best year in MLS, but could be interesting. Could be very, very interesting if, we maybe try to grab him for, one of the attacking midfielder roles and maybe shoehorn him in. Would be interesting. I don't know if we should do that, but, it obviously would take some figuring out, but central midfielder as well. We have the likes of Alex Ring, Anibal Godoy, Alejandro Bedoya, Jackson Ewell, all some players that maybe could be of use. Victor Wanyama, João Paulo, also some other players that could be useful, in some different roles. Also, you have Tim Parker, Lalas Abubakar, Jack Elliott, Jesus Murillo, a number of center backs that, and defenders that could also be very much of use if we wanted to, kind of beefing up our defensive core. But anybody that kind of stands out to you that might be somebody that maybe we should look at?
Can you imagine a center back pairing of Jack Elliott and Stian Gregerson? That would just be towering. That would be massive. I mean, you'd be dangerous in the box for sure when you're on a set pieces. So, yeah, I mean we like you said, we're flush with CBs and defensive pieces. So I don't know if that's the move we'll make unless we know of some that are moving out. Like for instance, if Abram does get taken up by San Diego, and we could move for like him, that could be Jack Elliott. That could be interesting. But I have no idea about that. Rusnak is, I mean, I don't know about that. I do like, speaking of Seattle, Joao Paulo, I just like him as a player. He's fun to watch. He had that injury for like a long time. I think, was it last season, or I think it was, where he was out for most of the season. But he's just a fun player to watch. I wouldn't say necessarily no, because I know he's not a DP. It would have to see, what it came down to in terms of his arrangements and contract stuff. So, but I'm sure, there are maybe a handful of players in this pot that you listed that could be of use and of interest. And it'll just be, it's times like this where you wish that there was at least rumors of a coach, so you kind of get an idea of what kind of team is trying to be built here in this rebuild. And so but we don't have that to work with. So you really are kind of guessing as to how this is going to be done. And I guess the only thing we can do is basically assume that we're trying to do what we did last year with Pineda, which, everyone's going to kind of balk at, but the front office kind of has their dictates, which are still kind of mysterious, and the new coach, whether or not they'll take the reins and be able to impose their own style on things, is still an open question as well. So it's hard to be able to predict who would fit in whatever the heck we're going to be putting on the field next season.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, definitely intriguing names, but I don't think you can rule out any Sounders players that are free agents, especially with Garth Lagerwey in tow. But Yamil Assad,
and just that Rui Diaz rumor too, I really hope we don't pull the trigger on that. That's something I definitely don't want to do.
Yeah, well, the Rui Diaz rumor, and I haven't mentioned it for this reason, it didn't really seem to base itself in any fact. And so, but yes, I'm glad you mentioned it. Rui Diaz would be an interesting player. Wouldn't be a DP for us. He would probably have to take a kind of depth role type of position with the team, and I would be intrigued to a degree if he's willing to kind of play for the team. But yeah, I don't know. And just like Jose Martinez, like I would be hella intrigued if he, would take a depth piece type of, position with the team as well. But yeah, that's pretty unlikely.
Why not, Joseph? Come on. Why not? Yeah. Why not?
Because, I mean, he got double digits in goals last season, but it was kind of towards the end that he really, turned it on. And especially he was able to score a brace against us. That really helped that as well. He, I think he's scoring against us a lot when he plays us. That also helps his tally. So, it's kind of.
I will say, because I just said, Jose Martinez, why not as a depth piece? I will give air and time to the counterpoint to that as well. That a lot of fans have voiced is that the counter to that is basically we need to kind of rip the Band-Aid off of the vanguard of the team and move on from it, and just have just put that solidly into the past and move on to the new team, the new players, the new identity, the new everything. And going back into yesteryear and taking players from the past does not do that. So there are a lot of fans who think we need to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and go forward and not go back. And then there are others who are saying, why not Jose Martinez as a depth piece? I mean, in terms of where I fall in it, I'm like kind of in the middle. It's kind of whatever. It really depends if Joseph just also can does, agree to being a depth piece as a backup striker, and under the right circumstances in terms of contract. I don't know if there's a super amount of value with the idea of, ripping the Band-Aid off and just start. I think you might throw the baby out with the bathwater if you're staring down an actually attractive arrangement with Joseph. But I don't know. That's too much of a kind of a like a hypothetical to really game it out, I guess.
Right. And after this, we'll move on. But basically, I was going to say Yamil Assad, definitely interesting in some degrees as well. He had a breakout year, his best as a pro, apparently. Playing more as a wingback, more as an attacking type of wingback, and for Cincy. So, that would be intriguing, maybe in the sense that, Brooks Lennon will be injured for the beginning of next year. Maybe we, have a coach that wants to play three-man at the back and play with wingbacks. That will be very interesting. So, Yamil Assad, a very productive player on his day and on his year. But, I don't know. It's an intriguing name. I also agree with you. There is that aspect that, I think we can find players that maybe weren't former players of ours that can produce for us. It doesn't always have to be a nostalgic trip in order for us to be successful. So, but there is some name recognition with some and goodwill with the fans to a degree that are smart moves. Also, could be something that maybe helps the front office a little bit with some connection with the fans. So I'm not completely against it, but let's move on into the mailbag. And you guys send in these questions through IG story and at Discord, and please continue to do so, and we might answer your questions in the future. So first question comes from Nick in the ATL. He gets the first question because he is our highest level tier of the Patreon fam. But he asks, are you surprised on who the team decided to protect versus what the panel here on AUF TV came up with? What do you think, Mike?
Not really. I guess, the Tristan one is really the only one that I think you could potentially scratch your head about. But I guess he's in the plans for, the team in the future. So it is what it is.
Right. And I think there were definitely, fan reactions that they were like, you protected Moscara versus Shande Silva. But I think it's, like we outlined above or prior to this, is that, Moscara, there is some of that value that we know we can move him on for versus Shande Silva, who had an injury-marred season and underperformed at his high salary levels. So it's, unfortunately, you kind of, like we mentioned last episode, you dare San Diego FC to take him. Yeah, he could be a reclamation project and do really well for them, but you just don't know. Like, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. We've had more of a, sample size of him not performing than him actually performing for us, unfortunately. So, and it's only a year and a half. It's not a large sample size, but, on that, I think you have to kind of weigh the odds. And, I think that's really where I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the decision.
And if you're Garth right now, with clearly this being, you rebuilding everything yourself, hiring the coach, hiring the TD, helping these guys get basically a whole new roster in. I feel like his mindset has got to be win now, for next season. And so he's got to make the decisions on certain, at least help the TD or whatever if he's in. Who knows if he's, what the impact, if there is one in right now, if like Henderson's in the background not being announced and pulling strings, who knows, but it's just he's got to be, I feel like he's got to be in his head in a win now perspective, and so he's got to make decisions based on that, I would imagine.
Yeah, indeed. Next question comes from Lego. Why should I believe that this year will be any different?
Well, partly from what I just said.
Yeah.
But why should this? I mean, I think a lot for whatever you believe as to the reason for why we underperformed all the seasons prior. Injuries, coach, not having the right players selected by previous TDs. All of that's gone now. Like pretty much we are almost entirely in the clear and are doing a whole refresh. So I think that should get, and for all intents and purposes, Garth Lagerwey seems to be, lauded as the real deal when it comes to building teams in MLS. So I got to imagine that there's a lot of optimism there in terms of how the team might show up next season. But that being said, it's gonna speak volumes to us if he doesn't produce. If this doesn't end up being like kind of a home run, maybe not like MLS Cup, but like if you're in the top 4 in the East, I think that should be your objective. So if he doesn't hit that, if he doesn't get there, it's like that's not good. But I think that there's a lot, like the reasons I laid out already. I think there's a lot of reason to think that is not a strange, expectation for next season.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So yeah, next bit or next question comes from greatest Josh Cohen fan. What's the strategy for the draft? What position should be prioritized more or less? I would imagine that's more for San Diego FC. I think from a spine standpoint is the smartest thing. And I think they've prioritized a little bit of that already with, signing a goalkeeper. But also, I would think that they would try to prioritize, they have as well already, with a defender in, Red Bull's Andres Reyes. So next up probably is a central midfielder, maybe a striker. So best available, I would say they should probably take it and, pretty much try to get some really good players on the cheap, which this is what it would be. And, from that standpoint, I think that is, my strategy. I would imagine most teams would try to build from a spine standpoint, but what do you think?
Oh yeah, 100%. It can be hard sometimes because of the way MLS is with the designated players, and a lot of times teams will, top load, like in terms of their DPs, they'll get high up the field attacking players as their DPs, and they will sometimes build around those players. So that can slightly be difficult in terms of a spine construction, but I still think in general that's the way to do it, and I expect them to follow suit.
Yeah. Next question comes from Ethan, ATL UTD 17s. He asks and says, Garth said in his career that he's never been able to sign more than one DP in a single transfer window. Personally, I'd be a little frustrated if this is what happens. Thoughts? Do you think it's likely we will sign another DP light instead?
I don't. I hope not. I really hope not. I hope that we just kind of are able to get our ducks in a row and get the players in that we want, the profile that we want, that Garth would be happy with. I really hope so. There's a possibility that there's just too much for him to do himself this window. It's possible. I just hope that's not the case. He kind of put himself in this position. So if you didn't think you could handle it, why would you put yourself in that position would be my next question. And if it ends up like hurting us next season, that we're not complete yet, that could be concerning. But I mean, he did say, he gave that, 1 to 2 window speech, and it could be we're looking at having to wait to next year's second window in order to be fully complete. It's possible. I don't know. I hope not. I think the balance of probability is that we're gonna, like I said, get a get hopefully be able to contend for a trophy, a winning team from the get-go. The team that sets foot on the pitch at in the start of next season is the one that he thinks can win the cup. I hope so. And I just don't really see a good reason as to why that wouldn't be the case. And if it isn't, then I mean, again, it's all on Garth, and Garth's going to have to take that, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, it's great points. I think I'll add that essentially, yes, he maybe hasn't signed multiple DPs in a single transfer window. He's also never really probably had the war chest that he has at Atlanta United as well. So there is that aspect that could be a difference. There is also, I think, yes, we know that he's a deliberate guy. He has mentioned that he takes his time making decisions, which I think it's bear fruit in his previous stops. That is effective. Whether he can do that at Atlanta United, it remains to be seen. It's just a matter of, will the fans have patience for it, especially when he's already been here for some time. That really is going to be the question, and it really is. He's going to have to figure it out.
Fans are going to hate that like 1 to 2 window thing. Like if he ever says that again, fans are going to lose it. So that's another reason why I think he's got to be able to put onto the field, come next season, a team that can actually very much compete. So,
Yeah, and that's the bit that's, I think, very important, is that he has said that already, and he's moved the goalposts once. If he tries to move the goalposts again, I'm not sure how many fans will be really up for that. And, it's I'm with you there, Ethan, and Mike, for sure. But next question.
Slow to go fast, AJ.
Yeah. Next question comes from Grego. Considering his success at Seattle, has he ever needed to sign more than one transfer window? One in a transfer window? Like, the need for a rebuild in Seattle was never as dire as it currently is here. The conversation kind of going on this, but. I think it's that he's never really needed to, because all they've had to do was retool, not pretty much do an entire what's the word? Basically, have to maybe rebuild. Fire sale, rebuild. Yes, and there was that. I mean, the fire sale was earlier this year, so at this point, a rebuild versus a retool, it is this. Like, Atlanta United, we've had, I think, a more dire situation than he's ever had to really piece together. So he has to show his worth in this window. Like, this is a very, very important window, and he has all to do, like we just mentioned. But
I mean, to Grego's point, I mean, like, if your team has to sign like 2 or more DPs at a time, that's probably not a good sign. And like that, like you should be, like AJ's like talking about, just swapping in and out 1 or 2 players here and there, maybe a DP, but 2 or more that's like you're in need of a rebuild. And I guess Garth has never been in the rebuild phase before. So I guess he's earning his wings now when it comes to this, because it's almost like, I think someone's like talked about this in the past, that it's like starting with a new franchise, like an expansion team almost. So he's got all the work in the world cut out for him.
Right, but he doesn't get the oodles of gam that you get when you first come into the league. So there's a big difference there. Next question. It comes from P Jackson 854. Who do you think might be the new coach and technical director? These questions are always fun, because the difficulty in kind of knowing how MLS teams will operate, especially Atlanta United, it's really tough. I mean, basically, the coaches that have come from Europe largely have been surprises. not really long rumored. And so when Tata got announced, okay, yeah, it was like holy, but the aspects of when maybe Gabriel Heinze was rumored, and all that, there is maybe some precedence with that, but large in part, and of course he came from Argentina, but large in part, it's really difficult to prognosticate who and where we would find these new coaches, especially with what he's saying. It's basically European, maybe some of that your experience, but mostly MLS experience in this league is something that he's prioritizing, and he's mentioned that it's the level of candidates that have been able to be attracted. He said he was wowed by that. It's tough. It's very tough to pretty much figure out who he's talking about. So I have no idea. But as far as technical director, the long-standing rumor is Chris Henderson, the current technical director or sporting director of Inter Miami. But other than that, that's what is known at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Henderson has officially left, and yeah, and what I saw, I'm pretty sure I saw an article about that. But Garth has really kept all of this very close to the chest. This is an incredible amount of secrecy going on when it comes to this stuff. Like no rumors, no nothing. It's just radio silent. And much to the chagrin and frustration to the fans, because they are chomping at the bit to get any little morsel of information or a possible transfer or new coach or any rumor whatsoever. And it's I just see like I've just in our Discord, it's every day is like, what is there any news? And it's just, man, yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, well, when you've cleaned house, there's not really anybody to leak anything. So, if it's all in Garth Lagerwey's brain, well, then there's nobody else to talk to about it unless he's asked.
I mean, the people you reach out to, they can leak things, I guess. Like, like a lot of times, like, you hear about agents saying like, oh, we're getting interest from X, Y, and Z in order to drive up their value of their players or people or whatever. So,
I say this in jest. But yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, but it is. Yeah, it is that. Like, yes, rumors do also come from not only people from the team, but also, yes, agents. It's a great point, as well as players sometimes as well as various anybody adjacent to a team or player. It all could happen, and as well, coaches. So. Anybody really could be. It gives the impression that Garth is sitting on his hands. He's not doing his job. Yeah, which
and that's not a good look. I mean, I guarantee that's not what's happening. Right. But it just, you don't want to have that look. You want to be able to, like the fans to point to something to give them something to chew on. And especially when a lot of these other teams are doing things. And you get a little bit of FOMO, out of that. So, I don't blame them. I have sympathy, because I'm a fan too, and I would like to see something come out, down the pipe about something to be excited about. But it is what it is.
And I think, I think you mentioned this before we started recording. What if Rob Valentino got a job before we made a hire for the new head coach? I mean, it would just be, I don't know. Just top level
pandemonium.
Yep, indeed. Anyway, last question comes from Land Guy in ATL. Who would you pick of the unprotected players? Definitely some intriguing names for San Diego FC. Who would you pick?
The defender from Philadelphia, Jack. What was his name? I forget. That guy.
Jack Elliott. Yeah.
Jack Elliott. I mean, just imagine, Stian and him. They're tall guy. That would be pretty cool. And then like Yao Paulo would be interesting too. Outside of that, I mean, I don't care as much. I don't feel like
it's not our team.
I didn't see a lot of. Yeah, and I didn't see like a lot of players where I was like, oh wow, I mean Reyes was exciting. I think that's a great pickup for them. But again, we don't really need a player like him, so yeah, I mean I'm not too enticed by what I saw. It's funny that if anyone ever talks about like the DPs being left unprotected by any of these teams, like Insigne and Toronto, like it's just silly. Like a new team is definitely gonna wanna pick their own DPs. Because these are franchise players, hopefully, right? And they are the face of the franchise. You don't want to get a guy, essentially, that was just the face of another team. You want to start out your own brand, your own people, fresh. So at least that's the way I would approach it. And I read an article from Tom Bogert saying that was his impression of it. So happily agree with him there. So yeah, that's just funny to think about. Like, what if they left Messi unprotected? It's like, yeah, they might pick him up, but it's funny. It's like, oh, by the way, and then Don Garber calls Miami, goes, didn't you mean you meant to protect? I'm pretty sure you meant to protect him. I'm just gonna assume you meant to protect him.
Yeah, it would be prime comedy, but yeah, I mean, I think as far as maybe some other players, obviously, kind of names that we would, I think, kind of be keen on in terms of if they were picked, Julian Gressel, and Eduard Atuesta could be somebody that would be interesting for them as well. Carlos Vela as well is unprotected. Yeah, I mean, lots of very, very intriguing names. I mean, if I were them, Julian Gressel has won something at pretty much every stop, just as a good luck charm. Why not pick Julian Gressel? Like, I don't think I don't think that would be a bad pick, especially pretty versatile. Why not? He did pretty well for an inaugural side as well, obviously. So, yeah, all right. So that is the mailbag and pretty much the entire episode, except for the question of the day. The question of the day is, how are you feeling about the time frame for hires? Are you feeling it's too slow? Just right? Let us know in the comments below. Looking forward to what you have to say. But guys, that is the episode there and there. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I've been AJ. That's Michael. We will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.